Morris Mo Lilienthal is a gentle giant, a former high school and college football player turned trial lawyer who discovered the power of social media. And he has embraced social media, and what it has done for him personally and professionally will restore your faith in humanity. No joke. Morrison, I know you told me I can call you Mo, and I'm going to because you are so personable and so friendly and so authentic that I feel I just have to call you Mo. It would be a disservice if I didn't. I smile every time I think about you and the things that you're doing just because it's the perfect mix. As I say, you're so authentic, and the way you come across and what you've done is so you and so real. I'm delighted that we're speaking today. And I have to say, this probably might be the easiest episode I've ever recorded because I think all I have to do is tee up some of the many stories you have to share and just let you go. So it might be a different format today. One thing I want to start off with is how I started to do some research on you. First, I went to your law firm website bio, and it's very buttoned up. It's professional, admittedly, typical. But there's a curious little badge that says Mo Show Live. And you click on that link, it takes you from Morris to Mo. I love that, number one. And I love the fact that the first line on that separate website says, quote, "I'm Morris, and I'm a dad, husband, volunteer, and trial lawyer."
It's just who I am, and it's who I am in that order. And I think if you've got your priorities straight and how I was raised and things that influenced me growing up, and, I've always put my family first. And so that started with my wife. And then when my son was born, that he, moved to the front of the line there, and my wife would say the same thing. And so everything falls in after that. So I prioritize putting them first and giving back to the community and doing, because I think at my core, and what I think should be everybody's core, if I was influencing others, should be family, your friends, and giving back to the community, because they are essentially your larger family and friends, and whether you know them or you don't, you're influencing them and they're influencing everything that you're doing in and around your ecosystem. And then certainly, what I do from, I'd say 8 to 5, but really it's a lot longer than that, is be a trial lawyer.
So this idea of being deliberate and influential, how do you carry that into your law practice? How does that translate into building relationships with prospective clients and referral sources?
I try to do that through my practice of the types of cases that I handle and the types of people that I help, and some of the products liability cases that we've handled and been involved in over the years, to make a difference in the community, to make a difference in individuals' lives. And in some cases, not a lot, but sometimes we make a difference in how companies interact and change how they handle things to influence the community as a whole in a better position. So that's kind of where it comes from. And it's just who I am.
A lot of lawyers have kind of a bold line of demarcation between work and personal life. But I get the sense that your personal life, your family life, affects your practice. Can you talk about that?
I grew up, my parents were divorced, and I didn't, interact a lot with my dad. And that's a whole different podcast, but that's just always wanted to put my son first. And if you dive into my story a little bit more, but I think you guys have, I lost my first son, and that certainly has molded and shaped me and my wife and how we interact with our son now. And so that's just who I am, man. That's it. And that's how I roll.
I've heard you speak. I've met you before. I'm sure you don't remember, but I remember you. You're extremely memorable. You're doing things with social media that you certainly wouldn't expect from an attorney, and you wouldn't expect from a lot of people. So what's your superhero origin story when it comes to getting involved with social media and really embracing it?
Well, I think my backstory on social media is like a lot of people, and that is I was kind of just someone that was on a couple of platforms, mainly Facebook to start with, and I just kind of looked and lurked, and occasionally if it prompted me, I'd give a like and maybe throw a picture out there or something. But it was just kind of one of those things, when I'm not doing something, I take the thumb and scroll up and down. But it really started probably 4 years now or so ago, where I was kind of looking at ways to get involved more in the community and spread positivity and highlight things and help others and engage. And as a lawyer, the way that firms have traditionally done that, and lawyers have traditionally done, my firm's been around for 84 years next year. And it was network marketing and meeting people and making, a handshake, a grin and a grip, as we say, and meeting people, and they trusted you and they sent you business. Well, I have kind of taken the position that we still do that, but the position that can be done on social media, but amplified in such a way that I can get out and spread positivity and impact others and engage with others and give feedback without the expectation of anything in return. And I do get things in return. First and foremost, I get positivity, I get feedback, I make new connections, I reconnect with people that I connected with before. And in turn, good things come from that. But where it kind of started was with me doing what I call my tips from Mo, which were these 60-second video tips. And it had nothing to do with the law, because nobody wants to hear about the law. Occasionally, out of the 500 I've probably done, a handful have been about the law, but it's more about consumer related things as opposed to the sticky issues that we deal with in the law that may affect how someone's case, turns out. These are life tips, hacks, inspirational things that have moved me, and something that I've seen at a ball field at an 8-year-old or 10-year-old ball game, or something that inspires me. For example, recently I shared one out that a lot of people were interacting with that I thought I was late to the party on, and evidently others are still back there, which was adding the hotspot to your cell phone package. And I'd never done it because I didn't want to lose my unlimited data. And I shared that out. And as a parent, if you're a parent out there and your kid's got one of these switches, or you've got an iPad that only has Wi-Fi access, then man, this is life-changing. And for me, riding in the car a lot when my wife's driving, she's usually the chauffeur of the family. I've got the laptop now, and I'm pounding out emails and doing stuff while we've been, on some road trips recently. That's kind of where it started.
So you went from being a lurker, thumb scrolling and liking whatever else. Then you moved into video. Then what?
I started with that and did hundreds of those. Dedicated, same hashtag, and did on a myriad of things. And then that gave me the inspiration and the confidence probably to start the Mo Show Live, which was my Facebook live show. And I started that with the idea of highlighting nonprofits, people who are doing good in our community, and other people who have a great story. And that's what I've done. And I've been doing that show for 3+ years now, and I've had 80+ guests on. And then as I've done that, what has developed is I've just refined that. So it just started with me doing the Facebook Live show and doing the show. And then I add into the mix, let's start a YouTube channel and add it to YouTube. Then I add into the mix, let's start doing a podcast version of the Mo Show Live. Well, that means we rip the audio and add an intro and an outro and do that.
So for anybody who's listening that might be confused, your community is not New York City from the sound of your voice. It's Huntsville, Alabama, right?
That's it.
Okay, good. Just wanted to clear
Roll
that up. Roll Tide. And I know that you give a lot of talks and you give a lot of great advice on the how. And you kind of just talked to us about the how, the things that you were doing. What really strikes me, though, is your vulnerability comes through on this stuff. I would say that you're fearless, and I think you are. I keep coming back to the word real. You didn't contrive these 500 videos. You didn't sit down and say, what's really going to work with this group that I'm trying to market to? It was kind of from you outward. And if it flopped, it kind of sounds like you would have been okay with it. And if it took off, that's okay too. But you stayed true to it. It's what I see from it.
100%. And I think in anything you're doing, and if you want to, we're talking about social specifically, I think it has to be genuine and true. And I think that's with any marketing and do. Mm-hmm. And I think people see that and feel that, and they know whether it's real or it's not. And whether, I've made connections with people that I've never met. People reach out to me, or if I go to a conference, people will come up and tell me they follow me on social, and they've made a connection with me through something that we share, that I just shared it on social. Mm-hmm. And what I try to do is I try to be real with people. The things that I share are life experiences that I have, that I think other people either have those experiences or would be interested in that experience. And maybe they haven't had the freedom or the willingness or the ability to open up and share that. And I just think you're genuine. And if you're genuine, people will connect with that.
Yeah. So was it like, I don't know, video number 111 when you stopped feeling so vulnerable or when the confidence kicked in? Or do you still feel it when you share stuff?
I still feel it sometimes, and there are things that I have questioned whether I should share that or would people be interested in that and do. I think after a couple, 75 to 100 videos, I just kind of let my guard down even more. I felt more comfortable about letting my guard down and do. And people that want to engage will engage, and people that are reached are reached. And that's just kind of how I did. But, a lot of people ask me, well, you just feel like you're really free with it and you can do, and you don't have a problem with that. And that's not true. I mean, especially at the outset of this 3-4 years ago, it was very, very difficult for me to let loose and start doing these videos. And I might shoot a tip from Mo 6 or 8 times before I felt like it was worthy of sending out. Now, oh my God, I never shoot it more than at most 2, but almost, and that's once every blue moon. Now I just shoot it 1 and done and get it over with.
Social media can be a pretty evil place too. And I wonder, and I can't understand why it would happen, but have you had any negative response to the things that you put out there, the things that you share?
I did a show a few months ago that I felt called to do with a lot of the social justice things that are coming out. And I did a show like that, and it was a little concerned whether I was going to get some feedback, negative feedback on that. And I just got to the point, I said, well, I don't really care at this point. I feel so strongly about this issue that I wanted to bring that out, and really didn't get any feedback. And, but I was really calculated with my guest and made sure that the guest was on point. And I couldn't have had a better guest that I had to talk about that issue.
What's the connection between your social media activity, your focus on the community, your spotlighting your local community, and business development, getting more work, getting new clients?
Yeah, I mean, my position has been kind of what I was leading into just a little earlier, and that is it's making connections and growing. This sounds so conceited now to say this, but growing my brand. Let's say that I have a brand. I'm big enough to be a brand, but growing my network of people that I can meet and influence and do. And that if I can meet a new person in my community, or I can meet someone else who has a really good story, that I can help share their story, making a connection with that person. So in the last 3 years of these people that I've interviewed, I mean, I've interviewed just a myriad of people locally. I started kind of locally, and it's still more local centric, but I have people who are regional people. I've had the international president of Rotary on. My gosh, he's over 1.6 million Rotarians in 200 and something countries. So, I've had the ability to network and do. And so what it's done is it's really allowed me to reach out and connect with these people. And so I'm top of mind with them now, right? We hear a lot in the marketing world and it's being TOMA, top of the mind advertising. Hey, I want this person that's 3 hours away that may have connected with me on social media, that if something unfortunately happens to that person, that the first thing they think is, man, I better call Mo. And it's because I've been entrenched into them. I've made that connection with a tip or two that I've made. I've made that connection because they're the ones that have got the low battery dad shirt like I've got. They've got a kid and they're trying to shuffle them from last night from flag football practice at 47 degrees, which was not a really smart idea, and to basketball skills training. And, we're shuffling from one to the other, taking off cleats, putting on basketball shoes. People understand that, people connect with, right? But that person that connects with that 6 months later, when they have a legal need, the hope is that they're going to know, like, and trust me already. So they're not going to go shopping. Their first instinct, man, I better call Mo.
Yeah.
And they are.
Are you the first call for any legal issue, or are you the first call for the work that you do?
No, it's any legal issue. And that's the key. And especially at my firm, we're a mixed firm where we do a lot of different things. I only specialize in doing trial work, personal injury work, but we do a lot of estate planning and other areas of the law. And so people just trust you. It's kind of like when you have a doctor that you just call that doctor and they're like, well, I'm a podiatrist and you're calling me about a cardiac problem.
Yeah.
But here's the cardiac doctor to call. So yeah, people are reaching out to me for lots of things that, to be frank, I can't really help them with specifically, but I always get right back with them, let them know what my recommendation would be, and put them in touch with somebody that's capable of helping.
We go to our internist, and hopefully the internist can help us in that initial visit, and we're good to go. But if it's beyond the internist capabilities, we understand that, and they are going to bring in the specialist to help us. And so I think you have established yourself as the internist. You get to ask, tell me where it hurts, and then make the determination whether it's you or somebody else. Your work in the community, it's walking up and down the street. And you shared with me that you have a routine that you walk your clients to the front door and out to the street.
So, I guess it's just the Southern boy in me that when we leave a meeting, I always walk my clients not to the door, but I walk them out on the front steps of the courthouse here. We're right on the courthouse square. We've got one of these old Southern movie type courthouses where we've got a square. So I go to walk some clients out a while back, and we're walking out and before COVID, so we're able to shake hands. And so we're talking, and up walks Devin Keith. And Devin is the president of the Huntsville City Council at the time. And Devin has been a guest on the Mo Show. And because of that, I've gotten to know Devin. We've been to lunch a couple of times and coffee and these kinds of things. And Devin introduces himself to them, and I tell them that he's the president of the city council. And Devin says, "Well, you got the best lawyer in Huntsville, Alabama. You're incapable." I mean, I can't say that anymore.
You can't buy that stuff. That's
can't buy it. And in fact, to further that, yesterday, or it was day before yesterday, I shared out a tweet about me being selected again to the super lawyers list. Devin retweeted it and said, "I hope I never need him, but I know he's here. Thank you, hero, for what you're doing in the community."
Oh, my goodness.
I mean, that's the city councilman sharing that out of soon to be the largest city in Alabama here in the next 2 years.
What I find interesting, we spend 3, sometimes more years in law school being trained to be experts, being trained to speak this different language, the law. And it's ingrained in us that we have to have the answer. And what I find so interesting about what you do is, whether it's not knowing how a hotspot works or something else that you come across that you share, you're not coming off as the lawyer dispensing legal advice from on high, from atop your ivory tower. You are right there with people. You are living your life just like they are, and they're sharing. And I want to call this out because I think there's this misconception out there that, hey, lawyers, if you're going to get involved in social media or any sort of personal marketing or whatever, make sure you're talking about the law. And you're proving that you can talk about everything but the law for the most part and still make a fantastic and indelible impression on people so that you have top of mind awareness.
Yeah, I agree with that. And I think it's because when you're flipping through social media, you're not looking for a lawyer at that time, right? It's not something that maybe a few people are, but generally speaking, and most people don't care what someone else is doing at their job that day. Hey, I put together 57 car parts today on the assembly line. Nobody else wants to hear about what your job did unless something extraordinary happened. Lawyers and law firms are approaching it the wrong way by just blitzing social media with, here's my 10 car wreck checklist, 10 things to know if you've been in a car wreck. Do we have some of that stuff? If people have been in a car wreck and they are looking on Google or somewhere, yeah, we've got those resources available for people, but that's not what I'm harping on and doing. I'm trying to build a genuine connection with people that connect with me in some way or manner or shape. And I try to do that with my clients in any meetings. And I was meeting with someone yesterday over the phone, talking with someone that made a connection because the person was a school teacher. Mm-hmm. I got a huge heart for school teachers because I feel like I've been one forever because my wife's year 20 teaching school. Yep. And we live and breathe school around our house. And now even more so when it's half hybrid and we're teaching school from home and we're taking school from home. And I'm trying to set up a show right now with the administrators in the school system, talk about ways to help parents. So I can do a show on that of how to better educate your kids from home and here's some tips, here's some issues that the superintendent's office is seeing and the classroom teachers are seeing. And I think it'll be a great resource and people will really eat it up. We'll see. But I think it's about building that connection. And if I'm blasting memes or pictures of car wrecks, images, and saying, call me if you're in a need, nobody's going to do that. That's just like a billboard on the interstate. It's just a billboard on Facebook. And I guess it'll get you some, but it's not the way I'm going at it.
In terms of your sports background, certainly your college football career, et cetera, how does that impact your practice?
I think my background, and this is I've spoken a lot about and done some shows about, I think my background in athletics has really benefited me well to teach me the skill set of hard work, dedication, and resiliency and getting knocked down and overcoming obstacles and winning in the courtroom because I've learned how much it takes to do. And, each of our backgrounds are different, but with me, I'm not the best athlete and do, but I worked very hard and did, and somewhat successful. I wasn't an SEC quality football player, but we won the state championship my senior year in football, and I was captain, first team, all state, and all that kind of good Uncle Rico moments. We went to the regular season with I think one of only two teams in the whole history of the Alabama high school football to ever win a state championship with a 5-5 record in that. But that kind of resiliency is something that's in my core in everything I do. So with me being a lawyer now, I think clients want someone who's genuine. And I make it a point to always meet my clients. A lot of people that do what I do have an investigator or somebody else meet the client. And I want to meet my client.
Let's pretend I have a legal problem and you're just the attorney who can solve it. The steps that I take to find you are pretty typical regardless of the problem I have. First, I'm going to go to an attorney I know and ask them if they can help me. If not, I'm going to ask them if they can refer me to somebody else. If that doesn't work, I'm going to go to family, friends, colleagues, coworkers, and ask if they've used an attorney in the past that they could point me to. If all that fails, I'm going to the internet, and I'm going to ask Google to recommend somebody. So let's say your name pops up in this process. You think I'm going to pick up the phone and call you now, right? Nope. Going back to Google. Amongst the top search results, I'm going to look at your bio and your LinkedIn profile, the top 2 places that I'll go to validate you, followed by legal directories, blogs, articles, and other places where you demonstrate your subject matter expertise. And I'm going to read all this stuff. And I better like what I see. Otherwise, it's game over. The legal marketing consultants at Rain BDM help lawyers build and boost their online presence. We understand the journey your next best client takes to find you. For more than 10 years, our team has worked with lawyers and law firms to create compelling attorney bios, practice descriptions, blog posts, white papers, presentations, all sorts of content that communicates thought leadership and experience. We make you look good and sound good so that you'll make a great first impression. To learn more about Rain BDM, our exceptional people, and the business development and marketing consulting services we deliver, call us at 855-790-RAIN. That's 855-790-7246. Or visit our website at rainbdm.com to read blog posts, download guides and checklists, or play with our really cool homepage slider. Now let's get back to our guest. Being a litigator, I'm sure the greatest compliment is when the other side hires you at the end of a case to take on something else. And I know it doesn't necessarily happen in your world, but I think you've got a story to tell me about a great relationship that you've forged with a particular insurance adjuster.
Yeah, I've had, I won't name names because I don't want to divulge those kinds of things out and but I had someone locally that I've got cases and claims against. And, it's one of those things, we have a good professional relationship. And so we've kind of butted heads here and there, but they've come to as know, like, and trust me and respect me. And they led to helping me get a guest on my Facebook Live show and a connection that they have with something else that they do outside of being an insurance adjuster. And that has then led to other people in that network sending me business. I think the reason that I have made that connection with that particular person and some others that I could tell stories about is because I've made similar to what I do on social. I've made a genuine connection with them. I'm asking about their background and their family and things. And I've made a connection with them either as a parent or with sports or with something, and it's genuine, and that has led to them trusting me and doing. And sometimes if we still have a claim against each other, we don't always agree with each other, and we may have to duke it out on the battlefield of litigation, but that's okay. We understand that, and we just move on.
Yep.
I've got an adjuster right now. This is another adjuster I'm thinking about that I had to report to their supervisor years ago because they would not respond and do what I thought was appropriate. And he got really upset with me because I went over his head, and they ended up doing what should have been done to start with. And since that time, we've started talking more, and they trust me more. And now for the last 2 years, they follow me on social media and comment on my posts sometimes every once in a while. And recently, when I needed help in another case, I called and hit 0 to talk to another adjuster because the adjuster on that file wasn't available. And this particular adjuster who I formed a bond with, that we were adverse to start with, answered the phone just by pure luck and was like, "Hey, Mo, what's up?" And gave me information that I normally probably wouldn't have gotten if I had not had that bond with that person.
I want to talk about some of the other things you're doing on social media. Mo, talk to me about T-shirts.
Yeah, so one of the things that I've shared kind of my personality with over the last several years is what I call my weekend work shirts. And so it really is just, I've just got these fun little wacky shirts that I bought, and my wife and son seem to buy me all the time, that just kind of let a little of my personality go and come out, and they're fun. I like to work a lot of Saturdays really early. I'm an early person. I've always been that way. And so I get up and I might be here by 5:30 on a Saturday morning, but I don't work all day. I work to 9 or 10 o'clock in the morning, so I don't really miss anything at home. And so I'm up here one Saturday morning and I'm catch myself in a mirror, and I'm like, man, I am up here on a Saturday at 5:30 in a Mickey Mouse t-shirt and a Nike hat. Everybody's lawyer should be working, should hire a lawyer that has a Mickey Mouse shirt and is working at 5:30 on a Saturday. So that's what I did. I shared it out and I said, hey, your lawyer should be at work at Saturday morning with a Mickey Mouse t-shirt on. And I just hashtagged it weekend work shirt, and I got tons of feedback. And so I've had just tons of fun shirts. Kind of one I kind of mentioned in passing earlier about the low battery shirt. So it's basically a cell phone battery with the little red one line on it, and it just says dad on it. And people relate to that, right? Yeah. I mean, people connect with that. People pay attention to details. And this is a story I've told before, but I think this is a pertinent point to tell this, is that with my weekend work shirts, I had someone reach out to me. I've been doing those weekend work shirts probably a year or so. I had someone reach out to me about being on a state nonprofit board. And I said, I am honored. And this is a mission that I'm very passionate about, but I don't have the time right now. And when I said that, he said, well, I know. I see your weekend work shirts at 5:30 on Saturday mornings. Right. But understand that person was paying enough attention to my social, and not only was getting the humor in my shirts, but recognized that I was a lawyer on Saturday morning at 5:30, and I'm that busy.
I tell people all the time, gone are the days when somebody could say, I need a personal injury attorney, and I'd say, you need to call Mo, and they're going to pick up the phone and call you. They're going to go to the internet first. They're going to check you out on your website. They're going to check you out on LinkedIn. They're going to check you out on a number of different places, and they do pay attention. So you are spot on. You've got to manage your online presence, because it's your new bona fides. It's where people are going to go and validate you and feel good about picking up the phone or calling you, or not feel good about reaching out to you. So You're really onto something with that. Another question I want to ask you. So I do Myers-Briggs personality type indicator assessments on people I coach, and I'm pretty good at spotting somebody's personality type. I got to tell you, you're the first person in a long time. I can't tell. Are you an extrovert or are you an introvert?
I don't know. I mean, it really is, because everybody that sees the Mo Show image, and as my little 10-year-old Wyatt loves to give me a hard time, the Mo Show, he always gives me a hard time about it. But I think I'm probably more of an extrovert, but not just totally outgoing and good. Where my wife is definitely more of an introvert. And I've tried to, for example, parenting things that I share out on social, and this is certainly my perspective, but I've tried to teach my son at a young age that, get out and meet people and ask about people, right? We're at his hitting coach a couple of months ago, and we're picking up balls in between hitting. And I started asking his hitting coach questions. Hey, man, where are you from? Where'd you go to school? Trying to learn and know. And Wyatt looks at me and says, Dad, why are you asking Coach Lou all these questions? It's like, hey, buddy, man, I'm trying to get to know him. And dude, now I've gotten to know that guy, and he's a rock star. Yeah. And his sons started this cool business, young entrepreneurs called the Bro Shop, and they've been guests on the Mo Show. And I'm like, man, what are these cool kids that have this own business in the 8th grade and doing all this cool stuff? I want to have them as a guest. But I'm trying to teach my kid that.
So the Bro Shop was on the Mo Show live.
Yes.
How did you get past that introduction? That's a tongue twister right there.
But yeah, I think I'm probably more of an extrovert, but not to the level I think some people would think. It has been more difficult for me to open up about things, but my wife definitely is more of an introvert. And I think my son is kind of a good mix. He's a good charmer and can open up a little bit more. And so I'm trying to teach him to do that just because I think there's a lot of good things that can come out of that.
That's fantastic. There's a book that I've pretty heavily relied on in my marketing career, my legal marketing career, called The Trusted Advisor. And to synopsize a certain area of it, when you build trust with people, as you move up that trust curve and you gain more, you move from being a good lawyer for them, you move from being a trusted legal advisor up to being the pinnacle, which is the trusted legal advisor. And at that level, trust is synonymous with profitability because those clients aren't going anywhere. But the other thing is that level of trust offers fulfillment. And what I find so interesting is in so many different ways, of course, social is what we really been talking about, but numerous others, as you've explained, you are building trust in you personally, in you as a human being, maybe consequentially as a lawyer, but not necessarily primarily. And I'm hearing from you the fulfillment that you get from the practice of law because of all these other things you're doing. There's an adjunct to that, to meet people, to get to know them, to make an impression on them. Am I hitting home on this one? Because I'm really sensing this from you, that you love all these different things, and the only reason you love them is because you're connecting, you're engaging.
Yeah. Fold back to what you were saying a while ago about being an extrovert and introvert. I'm definitely a people person, and I enjoy interacting with people and getting to know them and knowing their story and making a connection with them in some different levels. And one of the things that I've learned growing up and having experiences playing sports, meeting different people, and 17 years of practicing law, and certainly even more in the last 4 years of doing the Mo Show and all these other things, is that we have a connection in some way with most people, whether we really think we would or we wouldn't, in different ethnicities, different socioeconomic things. You meet people and people have initial perceptions, like what you said earlier about being a lawyer, right? People think and say, well, oh my gosh, he's a lawyer. He must have, his parents were probably lawyers and he probably grew up with a silver spoon in his mouth and all these kinds of things. Some lawyers did, and that's great. What we all want for our children is to make a better life for them and to give them more opportunities than we had. And I hope that, and I feel like I'm providing that for my son now. But that's not my story growing up and doing. And I think not that I didn't have a mother who's a rock star, and she still is, but to say that we struggled is an understatement. And those kind of things melded me and formed me. But those kind of things are things that if you meet me more as the lawyer who seems to be doing very well, and I am, and I'm very fortunate, I can relate to that person who can't pay their bills right now, right? I relate to them because I've been there personally. I didn't buy my first house till I was 35 years old because I had to put myself through law school. Yeah. But I relate to people, and I think I enjoy meeting people and making those connections and doing it. And I feel like one of the strengths that I have is that I can relate to someone who is on varying levels of life and skills and economic and socioeconomic and political views. That's something that I think makes me a better lawyer, makes me a better human being, certainly makes me a better father and a husband.
Great advice. So Morris, Mo, I will now call you Mo forever. I have enjoyed this immensely. And more than just learning about your social media presence, in a very short time, I've come to truly admire and respect you. You are genuine and authentic, and I so appreciate you spending your time talking with me today. Congratulations on Super Lawyers. Congratulations on paying off your student loans. Congratulations on the weight loss, although podcasts, are very slimming. And I have no doubt that everyone in our community of listeners will want to learn more about you and see you in action. So I'm going to give you the opportunity, give me the litany of places where they can go and find you and learn about you and see what's going on with you.
Yeah, well, thank you so much for having me on. And if people are listening to this and they want to reach out to me to get more information and feedback about what they can do to get more involved in social and do. I love talking this stuff and getting feedback, because I always pick up something from somebody else that I can maybe fold into the mix and into what I'm doing. So please reach out to me. But the best and easiest way to do it is just go to themoshow.live. That's themoshow.live. And all my social media handles and links are there. The links to the Mo Show Live Facebook interviews are there. The link to the YouTube channel's there. The link to the Mo Show Live podcast is there. It's a one-stop shop for the Mo and Do. So, yeah, please check me out there and reach out to me on social media. I'd love to engage in whatever your platform is, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. I'm on TikTok. I haven't started with the videos yet. I'm getting close. And so that coming soon, as they say.
Okay. Well, we will make sure to get all those links, or at least all those references, in the show notes for this. Thank you, Mo. This has been a real joy for me and a real treat, and I appreciate you giving us your time today.
My privilege and honor. Thank you so much for having me.
To hear this episode again or download other Sticky Lawyers episodes, visit stickylawyers.com. There, you'll be able to view episode transcripts, behind-the-scenes notes, and recommend a standout lawyer you know who might be a future guest. And please don't forget to subscribe to this podcast. Everyone at Rain BDM who works so hard to produce this podcast would greatly appreciate it. Until next time, I'm John Reed, and you've been listening to Sticky Lawyers.